Hey everybody, welcome back to Men Do Therapy, a show dedicated to men on their journey to mental wellness. Today we're talking about part three to this series about starting therapy. Today is the aftermath. Let's go. Hey everybody, welcome back to Men Do Therapy. I'm your host, Rene Garcia. Took a little bit of an unexpected hiatus for a couple of weeks. Sorry about that, but we're back in it. And as always, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Best way to hear about new shows, turn on notifications. I had a really great experience over this last couple of weeks, and I wanted to start out about it before we get into today's topic. I was able to speak at the Texas Association of Addiction Professionals conference this year. I was very excited about that to present this whole idea of Men Do Therapy and everything I'm doing with this content and with this platform. So I was really proud and very honored to present there. You know, when you sign up for these things, you really don't know who's going to show up. And I was on a Saturday day, and so usually by the end of conferences, people are kind of gassed, and you just don't know, right? You don't know what kind of people you're going to get. Well, people start slowly trickling in, and then my little room was full, and so I was really excited to see that. You know, I'm really proud of what we're doing. And on top of it, too, this is the second time I've presented this conversation and this presentation. And both times I've always ran out of time because there's so much information because people are just talking so much. And so that's something I love. I come from a collaborative background. I want people engaged. And I was very proud of how it turned out. So thank you if you started, subscribe to the channel as a result of that conversation, or you came to that conversation. And of course, I'm going to be shop working this at other conferences here in the Texas area, hopefully outside of Texas area one day, and maybe you can be a part of it. All right. So I'll get more into the addiction professional thing, as it's my first license I ever had, and it's something really close to me. But like I said, we'll come back to that. So today's episode I titled The Aftermath. Okay. So this is a part of a 3-part series. Please check out the other 2 parts. The first part, going over just seeking a therapist. You know, the second one is actually scheduling and finding one. The first one was kind of getting into the mindset of finding a therapist. The second one was finding a therapist. And now you have gone to this therapist. You've had your first session. So today's topic is called The Aftermath. What happens after you have gone to your first therapy session? So a couple of different things. Number one, how did it go? How was it? How did it feel? How was it if you had to give it a grade, how would you score your first session? It's really important to think about this because it really depends on a couple of things what the answer to this question is. If you've never done therapy, I think it's important to ask this question so much because you're giving yourself a baseline. Okay, this is my first therapeutic experience. You know, a lot of guys I work with, this is the first thing that they've got, the first therapy session. And there's a lot of anticipation, a lot of anxiety just showing up to it. And so, the first thing I usually do in the next couple of sessions is really, how did it go? So how was it? How do you grade it? By you getting this baseline of this experience, what you're now doing is giving future experiences something to compare to. Notice what I'm saying. You are giving yourself a baseline of what future experiences may be like. Not The Sopranos, not Analyze This, not any other TV or media or content bullshit that's out there trying to tell you what a therapeutic relationship is like. You are giving your own baseline of what this experience is going to be like, which is the most important thing, especially for those that have never been to therapy before. Now, I will speak to my guys that have been to a therapist before, and I want you to think, when you ask yourself, how was it? I want you to not compare it to maybe the worst or the best experience you had with a previous therapist, but kind of place yourself back into that first session or first couple of sessions. How was it? What made you feel comfortable? What made you not feel comfortable? And how were you able to, put yourself back into those first couple of sessions and give this therapist a chance? Because I think sometimes with previous therapists, especially with my clientele, these guys that have worked with other therapists, there is kind of a little dance, right? Because anybody who's had a previous therapist, there's some things they like, some things they don't like. Maybe this therapist saved their life. Maybe this therapist was absolutely terrible. Regardless, now you're comparing this therapist to your previous one. So be very careful with that. So again, set this baseline. It's your experience. How was it? Right? Was the therapist like you expected? What expectations did you have going into that room? Did this therapist have a killer social media content? Were they putting out videos like this so you kind of had an idea of who they were? Maybe a friend referred this therapist. So you're thinking, hey, I wonder what he's going to be. I wonder what she's going to be like. What were your expectations going in? And did this therapist meet those expectations? How was the space? Another question. How did you physically feel in the space if you're doing in-person therapy? Right now, it's the beginning of September 21. I know a lot of therapists are still doing online therapy. I'm doing it. And so if you're physically going into the office, how was the space? If you're doing online therapy, did you feel you were able to be open and transparent in the place that you're doing therapy? I think a lot of people think like, oh man, online therapy, it's so great. Like I can just be at home and that's awesome. But you have to really think about like, is my home space conducive or comfortable or secure enough for me to be open and have a full on therapy session? For some people, it's not uncommon. There's other family members in the household, or it just maybe in a small space with a partner or a loved one that maybe they want to have a little bit more privacy. So ask yourself, what about that space felt good? If you're actually going to the physical office, were you comfortable? Did it feel discreet? Were you able to, go there easily and able to get out easily? All these things are really important. Were you able to get there in a place or in a way that you weren't stressed out? You're driving all across town, that kind of thing. It's not uncommon where I've had some clients where, they work very close to me but live far away. So it may have been unreasonable for them to drive home and then drive back to me. So, they made a decision to maybe bumping their session up a little bit earlier so they could have a smooth transition from their work. How was the space? It's really important. Here's another thing. Did you open up about the issue that you wanted to talk about? Was there a place or a time where you were able to really be transparent of what was making you seek out therapy? I've spoken to a lot of fellas on the phone in these first couple of times that we speak, and they're very a little guarded, right? A little guarded about what they want to accomplish or what had them seek therapy in the first place, and that's understandable, and I get it. And it's really hard to do a whole therapy session over the phone, and it's basically illegal or unethical, put it that way. So while you're in that room, were you able to take advantage of that time? And that's a really great question that I usually ask a lot of my clientele is, hey man, like, I don't know, like, how do you want to use your time tonight? What's on your mind? How do you want to use this time today? Because that's the thing. I think we have to realize is that every therapy session is important. Every time someone comes in the therapy room and is wanting and willing to open up about these things, we have to take advantage of that time because we may not see them again, and that's just a possibility. So to you, if you're a client seeking out therapy, how did you take advantage of that time? Did you feel you were able to? Did you feel as though you were able to be transparent? And even though this is still the first session, you don't have to pour your heart out, but how were you able to open up? And if you weren't able to open up, what do you think was preventing that? Was there not trust develop in the room? Did you feel as though you weren't ready to open up? And you're allowed to answer yes to all of those things. My follow-up question would be, well, what do you think could change that? And that's something that's a really great conversation to have with your therapist. I love having that conversation. Hey, is this meeting your needs at this moment? Do you want to go back? It's another great question. Do you want to go back to the therapy? Or do you want to go back to seeing this therapist again? You don't have to. No one's making you do this. My response to that also too is, are the reasons you may not want to go back, are they some familiar reasons? Right? There's a great saying in AA where if you meet 10 jerks a day, you might want to question yourself because you might be that jerk. By the way, I'm not calling you a jerk today. I apologize. But it's the idea of, if you're kind of saying the same, well, this person doesn't understand me. This person doesn't understand me. This person will never understand me. Well, my question is like, how are you getting them to understand you? What have you done to work with people to understand your situation? And have you let that person know that you feel not heard, not seen in that session? And that's a great conversation to have with your therapist as well. The inclination to want to not want to go back to therapy versus wanting to go back to therapy is, there might be something that is holding you back. And, again, we don't know. We're still getting to know you. But you probably know. You probably know you better than we'll ever know you. And your decision to come back is completely up to you. My request would be, is if you decide not to go back, is it a familiar reason? And I think that's a really great place to start out with in therapy as well. All these things are great to think about after your first session, but I definitely want to congratulate you that if you have gone to the first one, I cannot tell you, I think I said it in one of my previous videos, how many clients schedule an appointment, complete the paperwork, do all this really hard legwork, schedule a first appointment, and then I just never see them again. It's tough to do this stuff. And I think I want to affirm you if you have gone through all that and you actually show up and you go to your first therapy appointment. It's not easy. You got to give this a little bit of time as well, especially if you've never done this before. We do work. Emotional work is tough. I've definitely had some heavy sessions where I've had to kind of take a breather and take a step back afterwards and take my own healing because that person really was going through a lot. But I am confident in knowing the more we're able to have open discussions about these things and use therapy as a tool for self-healing and self-growth, I feel like that's such a great way of self-care, stress management. All these things impact how you're physically feeling, and making mental health a part of your treatment team. A lot of us in our older years end up getting physical therapy, physicals, getting blood work. And I would encourage mental health care with that work as well. Am I saying everybody needs therapy? Of course not. But I want to encourage more men to think of it as a tool and an option they can use. All right. So I hope this helped. Please comment below. I'd love to know what you think. And we're going to keep going. All right. Like, share, subscribe, and I'll see y'all soon. All right. Peace.